a mature founder, a mature advisor, someone who's really helping people, and your incentives are not, tilted in one way or another. Things they didn't warn me about to be successful in startups. Once again, love the questions. Thank you. Keep using that Q&A box or chat to ask questions. Leave a comment. Here's the next one, Will. Here's what I came up with. Time is more valuable than money to your startup. Let me just explain. One of the biggest hacks that I figured out is to buy back my time. And
in what way?
In the sense that if I can use money to actually free me up, I have better leverage and I'll go get better traction. Whereas before, I was all about, I need to do it myself, and I have to pinch every penny, every dollar. And then one of the things, and we talk about it a lot on this channel, is I did my calendar audit. And these days, even if I can even scrape an extra minute of mental energy, time, resources, and not have to context switch or switch programs. I wear the same black shirt every day, type thing. I am much more effective, and that actually creates a better ROI. And so I now guard my time more than I guard my money, Will.
That is a luxury you've earned for yourself, right? In the formative stages, when you're just starting off in your career, you got all the time in the world and you got no money, right? And so you tend to spend it. But to your point, you tend to not understand how elastic that time is. For example, for most folks, particularly CEOs and folks that have really heavy responsibilities in a lot of areas simultaneously, what you tend to do, like you were saying, Ed, is you context switch all throughout the day. That context switch creates a lot of time for just making those switches. So what you do is you go through and you audit all of your time. You don't have to get crazy with it. Here's how I did it. And it was life-changing. I created a spreadsheet. I just put it in 15-minute increments, best as I could. I kept filling it in. What did I do? And I didn't just do it every 15 minutes. I'd go back 2 hours later and just kind of broad stroke it. And what I was trying to find out was, where does my time go, right? I'm at this back then, 16 hours a day, nonstop. Why am I not getting more done? Here's why. If you give yourself 16 hours, you will fill 16 hours.
Exactly.
But the assumption is that your productivity is linear, that within those 16 hours, you will just keep churning out the same level of productivity. Clearly not the case. It turns out for most folks, you have peak productivity where you get your most shit done within a small number of hours. For me, it's 3 hours a day tops on a good day. Okay. 3 hours a day, I get 80% of my value done. The rest of the day, no matter what I do, I'm going to deliver 20% of value. Because it turns out, when I looked at that timesheet, Ed, where's my time going? It's going to email, it's going to Slack, it's going to text, it's going to social, it's going in a ton of places, right, that have some level of value, but the game-changing stuff, not any of those places. Turns out, Ed, my most productive hours are before work starts. Why do you think that is? Because I'm not distracted.
And doing that audit's so important. Now, let's take it to the next level.
Yeah.
There's a two-parter on this one.
Okay.
Because what bakes founders' noodles is their brains, okay? Is now how you invest that time. Once you know the value of your time, how you invest that time is really interesting. Because, for example, let's say you're an early stage founder, like you're starting right in the beginning. And what they do is they'll go and they'll try and raise money. And basically they'll say, okay, now I'm going to spend $10,000 on a whole bunch of Google AdWords and survey pages and all this stuff. When I would say, if you actually manage your time properly, you could get way better bang for your buck by going out and spending an hour talking to an actual customer.
Right.
But what happens is there's this disconnect between time and money. And I find the most successful founders understand the correlation between the two. So they know when to invest money, and they also know when to invest time, and maybe delaying some gratification or not trying to microwave it so that they have a better outcome so they can pour their money in later on and get exponential results.
Absolutely. And I think it's really hard to convince people of that.
More of yourself, but not your best self. This is where from chat. I was working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. I get as much done now, and I have rock solid boundaries around time use. Yeah, that's the boundaries, and understanding not all time, just like Will was talking about, it's not all equal. Not every hour of your day is created equal, and not every dollar is spent equally for that result, and you have to learn to manage both.
When I look at my days, again, I look at when I have peak flow, okay? My peak flow at any given time is between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. That is when I get 90% of the valuable, unique things that I do. It's usually like writing or doing product development or something like that. Now, all the rest of the time after that is more like clerical, just rote tasks. I consider, if we're marketing on social media, Ed, you and I are very active, in Reddit forums and YouTube on, whatever. I consider that a rote task. I don't consider that like a high value task.
Yeah.
High value being it doesn't require a lot of my mental energy. It's pretty straightforward. But when I sit there, we're working on a new product right now that I'm super excited about. When I go through the mental cycles of what's the next iteration of that product, I can't do it after 9 a.m. ever.
Yeah, you've learned that about yourself.
You bet. You bet. Now, the other side of it is, one of our founders just chimed in. I genuinely believe that you have to time box yourself.
Yes.
You've got to time box yourself. You've got to say, I only have 6 hours to be productive today, and I'm not allowed a 7th hour.
That's the boundaries.
The moment you go elastic with your time and say, it's as much time as it takes, worst answer possible. Good.
Here's another thing that I learned being remote, and I'm so appreciative that we all get to work in different parts of the country and we're virtual, and I get to work out of home. There's certain comforts. But as far as boundaries, it's not just time boxing, but also I've learned that if I appear to be accessible, people will take for granted that I'm available.
Yep. 100%.
And so time boxing is not just putting boundaries on your time, but also boundaries on accessibility, allowing other people to infringe upon that time. When I need to get something done, I will literally turn off the phone. It's one of those things, no notifications. And we have the wonderful Jen who runs my life. She's lurking in the background here. And she time boxes me out. And like, Ed is not available during this time. Right. And I have to guard that because I get the best work done during those moments.
Yeah, it's funny. And you and I talk about this from time to time. Like, I just keep shifting the start of my day to be earlier and earlier so I can have more unrestricted time. Like today, I got started at 3:45, which I know is bananas early, right? I had a whole bunch of stuff I needed to get done from like 4 o'clock until like 9 o'clock before I started my 9 o'clock stuff. And so that was my schedule.
Well, the time that you got up, the hour that you got up to start working, I hadn't even gone to bed yet because I was wasting my time watching. I was watching Disney Plus. So very bad, very bad. Okay, thanks for making me feel bad, Will. I appreciate it. You're challenging me.